It's 7:15 on a Tuesday evening. You're standing at the kitchen counter, fork halfway to your mouth, and you feel it before you see it. That gentle weight of a gaze. You glance down, and there they are, sitting just inside your peripheral vision, perfectly still, paws tucked, eyes locked onto your face. Not your plate, your face. Most people assume their dog is just begging for a scrap, running the daily math on whether tonight is the night you finally crack and slip them something off the table. But 2 decades of research in canine cognition tells a completely different story, and once you understand what your dog is actually doing in that quiet moment, you will never sit down to eat the same way again. There's also one specific shift in this behavior you absolutely need to catch, because it can be the very first sign, sometimes weeks before anything else, that something is wrong. The food explanation feels obvious, and on the surface, it makes complete sense. Dogs love food. You have food. Therefore, the staring is about food. Case closed. But then you start noticing things that don't quite fit the theory. Your dog already ate. Their bowl is half full of the same kibble they've eaten happily for years. You're drinking a glass of water, and they're still watching. You're eating a slice of lemon or a piece of raw onion, something they actively dislike, and they're still there. If raw hunger were the whole story, the second your dog finished their own dinner, the show would be over. So why do they keep watching? Why does it happen with water, with black coffee, with a cup of tea on a quiet Sunday morning when there is nothing on the plate at all? The answer has almost nothing to do with the food. It has everything to do with you. Researchers at Bonn-Oberkassel University in Budapest, one of the leading canine cognition labs in the world, have spent more than 2 decades studying a behavior called social referencing. In a now famous 2012 study, they exposed dogs to ambiguous, slightly threatening objects and watched what the dogs did before deciding how to react. In roughly 83% of trials, the dogs looked first at their owner's face, scanned for emotional cues, and then made their decision based on what the human's expression seemed to communicate. They were reading you. Not commands, not training cues, your eyebrows, your jaw, the tiny micro-shifts in the muscles around your mouth. Dogs evolved over thousands of generations to monitor human faces for survival information, because for most of their existence, what humans were feeling was the single biggest predictor of whether the day was going to be safe or dangerous, abundant or lean. And mealtime is the most predictable, attention-rich, emotionally honest window in the entire day. The phone is down, the shoulders are dropped, the face is unguarded. When your dog watches you eat, they are not waiting for a scrap to fall. They are updating their internal model of you. They are checking in. And the moment they lock onto your face, something else starts happening underneath both of your skins. On a chemical level, neither of you can feel directly. In 2015, a landmark study published in the journal Science by researchers at Azabu University in Japan found that mutual gaze between dogs and their owners triggered a measurable spike in oxytocin in both species. Not in one, in both. Same molecule, same loop. The dog gazes, oxytocin rises. The owner glances back, oxytocin rises again. The cycle reinforces itself in real time, in less than 2 minutes, with no words exchanged. This is the exact same neurochemistry that floods through a mother holding her newborn for the first time. The same molecule that bonds parent and child across the entire mammalian family tree. It is the chemical signature of attachment itself. Your dog is not just watching you eat. They are standing inside a chemical conversation that your body is having with theirs. No food exchange necessary, no commands, just presence. And that presence, quietly repeated every single evening across years and years, is one of the deepest, most consistent bonding rituals available to any 2 living things on this planet. And none of this is new. It is not a modern quirk of pet dogs raised in apartments and suburban homes. It has been written into their genome for somewhere between 15 and 30,000 years. In 1914, archaeologists working at a site called Bonn-Oberkassel in Germany uncovered something that quietly rewrote the story of our species. A man, a woman, and a dog buried together in the same grave. Modern analysis showed that the dog had been seriously ill for weeks before its death, suffering from a disease it should not have survived without intensive human care. Somebody, 14,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age, loved that dog enough to feed it through illness and bury it at their side. That is older than agriculture, older than the wheel, older than written language by nearly 10,000 years. Geneticists have since traced specific insertions on canine chromosome 6 in a region linked to hypersociability that make modern dogs uniquely wired to seek out and bond with human company in ways no other domesticated animal does. They didn't just live near our food, they evolved alongside our table. When your dog stares at you over dinner, you are looking at 15,000 years of selection pressure quietly focused into one steady pair of eyes. But here is the part that breaks the food theory completely, the part almost nobody talks about. Researchers ran an experiment in which dogs were fed a full, satisfying meal first, then brought into a room where their owner sat down and ate something the dog had no possible access to. Logically, a well-fed dog should drift away, lie down, lose interest, sleep. Instead, in the overwhelming majority of cases, the dogs watched anyway. Some moved closer. Some rested their chin on the owner's knee. Some sat at a respectful distance and simply stared. They weren't hungry. They weren't asking. They were participating. Across nearly every human culture on Earth, eating together is one of the most powerful bonding rituals our species has. Dogs, descended from social pack feeders whose entire survival depended on shared meals and group cohesion, recognize that ritual instinctively. When you eat, you are at your most relaxed, your most emotionally legible, your most still. Your dog is not begging during your dinner. They are joining it. Quietly, every night, the way their ancestors joined their humans around fires that have long since burned out. There is one last thing you need to know, and it might be the most important part of this entire video. Because your dog watches you eat, that behavior becomes a baseline, a rhythm. A daily check-in you can almost set a clock to, which means any sudden change in it is information, and you should never ignore it. If your dog suddenly stops watching you, withdraws to another room during meals, or seems distracted and unfocused at the exact time of day they used to lock in, ask what has shifted. A new pet, a new person in the home, a change in your work schedule, even a rearranged living room can quietly erode their sense of safety. If the behavior shifts in the opposite direction, sudden obsessive staring, pacing near food, unusual drooling, restlessness, or whining where there was none before, that can point to something physical. Dental pain, nausea, gastrointestinal trouble, and early organ disease often show up in food-related behavior weeks before any visible symptom your veterinarian could detect on a routine exam. And in older dogs, especially those over the age of 8, roughly 35% develop some degree of canine cognitive dysfunction syndrome, a condition functionally similar to dementia in humans. One of its earliest, easiest-to-miss signs is the quiet loss of familiar rituals. The dog who used to watch you every single evening simply, slowly, forgets that they ever did. So tonight, when you sit down to eat and you feel that familiar weight on you, the steady pull of two eyes that know your face better than your own reflection ever could, look down. Really look. They are not asking for your food. They never were. They are reading your face for tiny signals about how your day actually went. They are riding a chemical loop that started 15,000 years ago in a cave in what is now Western Germany. They are standing inside a ritual older than agriculture, older than language, older than every plate that has ever held a meal. They are choosing, for the 1,000th quiet evening in a row, to spend this small, fragile window of stillness with you, and only you. That stare across the dinner table isn't greed, it's communion. It is one of the most intimate things a dog has ever known how to give. If your dog does this every single night, tell me in the comments. I want to hear about it, the time, the exact spot they sit, the look on their face when you finally meet their eyes. Subscribe so you never miss what comes next, because the next video is about something that happens dozens of times a day in every home with a dog the moment you say their name. What your dog actually hears when you say it, what happens inside their brain in that fraction of a second, and why the answer is nothing like what scientists expected. And it is stranger, deeper, and a lot more beautiful than you would ever guess.